Our client is interested in learning how to improve the interface of their visualization tool within their application through analysis of Google Analytic logs. Our dataset shows that the visualization tool webpage alone has 44,000 records and has 314 unique users.
So we looked at how are our users using the app. So we looked at things such as the number of sessions per user, the average session duration per user, and the average number of events, such as clicks, scrolls, things like that per session. So a lot of these distributions were pretty right skewed. We did see that, there were some users returning up to 15, 20 times to the visualization tool. Some of the users had an average session duration that were up to an hour. But when we looked at the session duration split by user type, we did see that the one-time users contributed the most to these really short durations that we saw. We also categorized our users as having been engaged or disengaged based off of whether they either had multiple visits to the website or had a session that was longer than 2 minutes in duration, or otherwise they were disengaged. And then based off of the usage logs, whether we saw that they had visited any of the other resources on the website, such as tutorials, documentation, training videos, anything like that, we classified them as having done some sort of training or not. And so we do see that for engaged users, there is a roughly 4-time higher rate of training versus disengaged. So that might be an important factor for user satisfaction. And then lastly, we looked at the distribution of these different event types by disengaged versus engaged users, and we see really no difference in the usage patterns there. We also looked at how the user activity has changed over time. So this top plot shows the number of new users per week over the 2 different time periods. In general, we see pretty similar rates within magnitude and kind of similar patterns over that time period. And then we also look at the difference of the distribution of the different event types between those 2 different time periods. And overall, we see more event types having happened in this earlier year, and our client has mentioned that this is primarily due to more developers and testers using the website compared to the more recent year, which reflects more truth.
In terms of organ popularity, we found that the small intestine is the most viewed organ, closely followed by lung and the liver. To showcase this data, we have created a live filterable chart that shows the user density, the number of organ searches relative to other organs, and the trend of searches by date. We have also made sure to clean up any impure data as we received in our feedback. Interestingly, we found that most users in our tool make fewer than 200 searches or clicks, as seen here. To help visualize this, we added a size element to the circles. Each circle represents a user, and the size represents the number of searches they make. And when it comes to organ connectivity, we see that the network tree diagram is represented here. We have the strength associated with the connections, as the thicker edges represent a stronger connection. We found that the organ most frequently associated are liver, kidney, blood, and eye, and the vasculatures are only connected with the respective organs. The dense and interconnected network suggests that every user visits most organs quite religiously, which could be due to frequent testing or additional testing with new users. And finally, we come to the question of the export formats being used. To identify the most frequently exported organs, we plotted a frequency histogram of the number of times a certain export format is used. We isolated the top 5 users who used the export feature, which is quite evenly distributed in terms of their usage, ranging from 11 all the way up to 33%.
Overall, we got really good feedback from our peers, including things like the diversity of the visualizations we created, the tools that we used, and the motivations behind our visualizations being clear. Some things that we can work on, though, are adding more references to related work and discussing the stakeholder needs more clearly. Some future work includes further discussions and iterations with our stakeholder, improving visualizations such as the network diagram, or adding a new visualization such as the Sankey graph. And then it would also be interesting to get additional data such as geographic or demographic or location for our users as well.